What's going on, everyone? LMC here. Today I want to talk about Lumirecia, the water sylphid. You're kind of wondering probably what the heck's going on here. Well, we're going to try things a little bit different. I already pre-recorded a few of my Dragons B10, a couple of my Dragons B10 battles, and then Lumirecia is also capable of soloing Giants B9. So we're going to kick these things off, and here's the team for what I've been doing Dragons B10 with. And I want to point out, a Casus, we'll talk about this in the video a little bit later, but a Casus isn't really that good of a character. She dies a lot because wind is weak against fire, so she can get one-shotted pretty quickly. This isn't the best team. There's a lot of monsters that can fit into a Dragons B10 team. It's a little bit more complicated than Giants. Well, not more complicated, but it's a little more difficult. You have to get, some monsters that you're not used to using for the most part. But let's kick these battles off, and that'll give you guys something to watch while we talk about Lumirecia. So let's see here. So we'll just kick these off. And then, okay. So Lumirecia, the water sylphid. A lot of people have this monster, and I'm going to preface this video with saying I am no expert at this by any means. But I've managed to make my Lumirecia pretty good, and I want to explain some different rune possibilities that you can have for her. This might help people out in farming Dragons B10. You might be wondering, well, why do I need to farm Dragons B10? Well, as you get farther into the game, the first thing you're probably going to do is I suggest watching my How to Build a Win Team video. That's going to give you a win team that's very capable of beating Giants B10 100% of the time. And there's a lot of different choices for monsters you can have with that team. But once you start farming Giants B10, you're going to get Swift runes, you're going to get Focus runes, you're going to get all the runes for the first half of the game. So Fatal runes, Energy runes, things like that. So you're going to start getting some of these 6-star runes. As you get farther into the game, a lot of the high-end players, some of the best rune builds for a lot of the monsters have violent runes, violent 6-star runes. Now those are really hard to get. You can get those from your magic shop, so that's why I recommend purchasing all the magic shop slots. It costs a few crystals, probably like 100 and some total to unlock all the magic shop slots. It might be more than that. But it's worth it because you have a chance to get those violent runes, which are really difficult to get and really are the best builds for a lot of monsters at the end game for arena and for a lot of different things. So, with that said, that's why you want to farm Dragons B10. It's the only other way you can get violent 6-star runes other than the magic shop. And the magic shop is just RNG. You're just hoping you're going to get lucky to get those. Now with dragons, you're also hoping you're going to get lucky to get those. What was the stats I heard? Something like you have a 20% chance to get vampire runes because Dragon's Keep is the only place that drops dragon or vampire runes. And then you got like a 5% chance of getting the rest of the different kinds of runes, which are like shield runes, revenge runes, violent runes. So you still have a very low chance. Norwegian Troll said he did close to 100 Dragons B10 battles and got like 2 violent runes. So is it really worth it? Well, those violent runes are going to make your monsters the absolute best they can be if you get good 6-star ones. So in my opinion, it is worth it. And you're always hoping to get those every time you do a Dragons B10 run. And you can do Dragons B6 through B10. That's also going to have a chance to drop 6-star runes. You don't have to do B10, but you're going to have the best odds if you do. The best odds at better runes. So, this looks like it already finished, so it kind of messed up the window size, but you can still see what's going on here. Alright, so let's jump into Lumirecia here. If you want to have her so that she can solo Dragons B10, so she can solo this dragon right here. So the rest of my team in this window is already, they're all still alive. For a lot of my Dragons B10 teams, this is not the case. You can see down here in the bottom, I already lost a couple monsters. Now, when you get to the 4th round, if you can kill a couple of these towers and you have a good Lumirecia, she can carry the rest of the way. She can kill the other 3 towers in the 4th round, and once you get into dragons, she can solo the other towers as well. Now, if your Lumirecia is not quite strong enough, not enough defense and hit points, she's not going to be able to solo the dragon or the different towers. So there's different levels of soloing that we're talking about here with Lumirecia. Mine is probably 90% capable. She can still die sometimes if she's on a solo run and she doesn't have any of her other teammates. If I get to dragons and she gets a few debuffs, the only debuffs you're worried about is the defense break and then the continuous damage. Now she has 100% resistance, which is very important for Lumirecia. Let's start talking about stats. So here's the runes I have. We'll go through them real quick. It's Swift Guard. The best runes that people suggest for Lumirecia is Violent Guard or Violent Endure for the extra resistance if you need it, or Violent Energy, depending on what you need for your Lumirecia. But I didn't have those Violent runes because, well, I just haven't got them. So Swift is also capable of doing solo dragons and giants B9. So, you're looking for high level runes with good substats. Substats for Lumirecia that you need are going to be energy, resistance, speed. Speed is very important. Hit points and defense. Defense especially. Because if you have 100% resistance, your Lumirecia is not going to be getting that many dots put on her. So those dots are going to take down 5% of the hit points. So it's not going to make defense is generally viewed as more important, which is why I focused on having only 1 hit point percent rune and 2 defense percent runes. Now, is that the absolute best? I can't say for sure. There's a lot of different ways you could rune her, and a lot of different ways will probably work. But what I got going on is Swift Guard, so extra defense from the guard runes. And then a 6-star defense percent rune, so I was lucky enough to get this. And then, this rune's also got plus 16 accuracy. Accuracy isn't super important. You're worried about survivability. But the more accuracy you have, the more her first skill is going to add dots to the monster. So you can see I wasted a lot of Devilmon getting my Lumirecia skills up. What I was hoping for is that I would only use 1 Devilmon and I would get this cooldown timer. So this is very important for a Lumirecia that you're hoping is going to solo. And if your Lumirecia can't solo, we're going to talk about a build, some different team builds that are going to, work well with her and are going to let you do Dragons B10 even though you don't have a Lumi who can solo the whole thing. And the Lumirecia can't solo the whole thing. You still have to have a team that's going to get you far enough to the 4th level before you do the boss. She can solo the boss, but she can't solo like this right here. She would die if she didn't have a team supporting her. So anyways, the Devilmon, I was really bummed about that because I kept feeding them to her one by one. These are Devilmon that took me a week apiece to get, and now I'm doing Tower of Ascension, so I got one last reset from doing that. And then once in a while, Com2uS gives us a free Devilmon. But they're hard-earned and they're very rare in this game, so they're like one of the most limited resources. So I was hoping, boy, I hope I can just get this cooldown turn -1 and then stop feeding Devilmon to my Lumirecia, and then I'll have those Devilmon to use for other monsters. Well, that didn't work out. I fed them to her one by one, and I kept getting plus this for the first and second skills. Finally, after wasting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Devilmon I wasted, I finally got this all-important skill. Recovers the target's hit points by 100%. This is what allows her to solo content. You definitely need this to be reusable every 5 turns. If you don't have this cooldown turn -1, it's only going to be reusable every 6 turns, which makes it that much more difficult for her to solo anything. So that's very important. So if you don't have Devilmon that you're willing to use for Lumirecia, it might not be a character you want to build right now. Now, she has some other things that are helpful. So harmful effect rate plus 10%. So let's talk about her first skill. The reason she can solo the giants is because she has a chance to put up dots on the giant. A dot that lasts for 3 turns. So every damage over time effect reduces the enemy hit points by 5%, or your hit points if you have continuous damage effects on you by 5% each turn. So if this lands, it's actually taking down the dragon's hit points by 15%, or the tower's hit points. You know, you're using your dots to take out the towers as well. So if this does land, that's like minus 15 hit points. So a very strong attack, but the chance for it to land is only 30%. Now you're probably looking at this saying, well, if I get all the harmful effect rates, plus 10%, plus 10%, plus 20%, that's going to mean I have a 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% chance to land this attack. No, that's not the case. It's 10% on top of this 30%. So 10% of 30% is 3%. So you can take that 3% then and add that to 30%. So if you only got this level 2 skill, then you'd have a 33% chance to land this dot. Now you also have to take into effect accuracy and resistance. So assuming that you do land this in phase 1, then you do a weight on what your chances are with how much accuracy you have versus how much resistance the monster has. So the more accuracy you have, then you're going to have land this attack more often, is basically what I'm getting at. So you have a 33% chance to land this attack on phase 1, and that only goes down in phase 2, where you do your roll of the dice with accuracy versus resistance. I don't know how much resistance the dragon or the towers has, but more accuracy is better, basically. You don't need accuracy because if you're survivable and your Lumi can't be killed, you're eventually going to get those dots on the monster. I have 38% in the dragon's runs. Take me a little while to do. But, you know, it works. So that's basically what you should be shooting for. Now, speed, you're going to want more speed, and that's why violent runes are kind of nicer, because you have that 25% chance to attack again. So that's pretty much like a huge increase in speed, because you're going to be casting, your skills are going to come off cooldown a lot faster. Swift works really well also because it's reliable. So I kind of like Swift a little bit more for this type of content. But don't quote me on that. Violent is probably a better choice. But Swift works just fine. But you want more speed because you want to attack at least as fast, if not a little bit faster, than the other monsters and the dragon. Because if he can attack 6 times when you can only attack 5, that might be enough to kill your Lumi before her skill is off cooldown to give you 100% hit points again. So speed's important. Defense is very important, because if you have 100% resistance, her leader skill is plus 50% resistance for water attribute monsters. So she is the lead for my team on dragons and when I solo Giants B9. So you want to have close to 50% resistance. I have 5% more than I need that's wasted. So I'm going to have 100% resistance, but that doesn't mean that she can't get debuffs added to her. If there's still always, I think, a 15% chance to receive the debuffs. She gets a whole lot less, but you can see in these videos that she still gets damage over time effects and defense break effects, which can be devastating. You know, that's when you're likely going to die. You can solo almost all this content, but if one of these towers, these big crystals, casts this right here, the defense break, and then you get a couple damage over time effects, that can be devastating. That can ruin an entire solo run, like right here, pretty close to being in the danger zone. You know, so even if you can't completely solo it, you might be able to, I mean, if you can't completely auto this battle, you can probably solo it if you just target one of these large towers. So it's the same for dragons and B9 giants. The large crystals, I keep calling them towers, the large crystals are your biggest concern. They hit a ton harder than golems, and they hit harder than these little crystals too. So I always try to target one of these. You can see I'm targeting up here. I have done successful auto runs, complete auto runs, but you can see I only have 2 5-star monsters here, plus the The Acasis could die, so just spending a little bit of time in targeting towers. Everything else is on auto, but just click a tower to target it. That seems to help quite a bit. So, I'm jumping around a lot, but hopefully you guys are getting some good information out of this. You know, the more accuracy, the faster your runs are going to be. But you want to have close to 50% resistance, high defense. My defense is probably a little bit ridiculous. It's probably more than it really needs to be. I wish I had more hit points. You know, that's where I kind of lack, and that's where my Lumi gets into trouble is lack of hit points. So you're looking for runes. Like I would love to put this rune on my Lumi, and if you're watching this, today is Saturday. Then Sunday, tomorrow, is actually free rune removal day, so I'm pretty excited for that. But I would love to put this rune right here, hit point percent plus 21%. It's a slot 3 Swift rune on my Lumi. So I might rework my runes to get these amazing substats like this. And you need some runes that have amazing substats if you really want her to solo some of this stuff. It's not an easy endeavor, but a lot of people find it, you know, it's kind of fulfilling when you get a monster who can do something like this. And she's totally capable of soloing. Let's take a look at the levels. She can solo all the way up to Mount Renewer, Hell, level 1. So that is huge experience. It takes her a long time. But she can solo Phaimon Volcano, Hell mode, level 1. She can solo a ton of stuff. And she actually just soloed up to B9. I accidentally used her and one other monster in the Wind Lizard Man dungeon just now. But she can solo a ton of stuff, so it's really cool to get her really capable. But alright, so you know, this is definitely important, getting this skill up on the rune. Swift and then some other set of runes, depending on what you have the best of. Now, you're probably looking at these, and this is why I'm failing a little bit more than some Lumirecias out there, is these are only 5-star runes. And I wouldn't normally plus 15 a 5-star rune, but I don't have anything better right now. So I kind of really wanted her to do some of this solo content for me and be that monster that I've been working towards, and this is all I had. So she's almost capable. If these were 6-star runes, she would be able to solo this stuff just I think 100% of the time with no problem. But these being 5-star runes, it's giving me some issues. And you can see these are not good. These are flat substats. This is not what you're looking for. You're looking for the percent substats. So the accuracy and resistance, 5 and 6%, that's not great. And either are these flat substats. So there's definitely better runes out there. You know, I got some speed here, accuracy, crit rate. Crit rate's not that great for Lumirecia. That's not what you're looking for. But and then another flat substats, so a little bit of resistance here. You know, these runes are okay, and they're plus 15, which makes her capable of it. But if they were plus 6 like this one, now this is a pretty good rune. Plus 16 accuracy, and see you're getting 12% more defense percent or hit point percent when you go from 5-star to 6-star plus 15. So it makes a big difference right there. Plus you get better substats in general as well also. So hopefully that helped. Hopefully that explains what you need to do for runes. If you have the violent runes that have defense percent and hit point percent capability, and you might be able to do this if you use speed, violent runes with speed here. I mean, she would be attacking quite often, but you would need definitely 6-star defense percent and probably hit point percent runes here. Again, I'm no expert here. Maybe somebody will post below this video and, you know, kind of give their opinion on what you should be doing for some of these runes. But this has worked well for me, and I've done quite a bit of research on some different forums. So she's awakened, her skills, you know, these aren't really important, especially these ones right here. This skill, what I will say is you probably do not want to get the cooldown turn -1 because this skill, you know, a strong attack puts the target skill on cooldown. Not really that useful. You want to be casting this as much as possible to get that chance to get the damage over time effects. So you really want this. This is the most important, and Lumirecias can solo with only this skill. If you get these harmful effect rate pluses, you know, that's going to help, and so is this. So are these damages. That's going to speed things up a little bit, but it's not very important, and it's important that you don't get the cooldown turn -1, I would say, because you just want the most chances to get these damage over time effects as possible. So hope you guys have good luck with your Devilmon if you are building a Lumirecia. And even if you don't have the absolute best runes to make her capable of soloing this high end game content, you can you can put decent runes on her and then use her for Phaimon Volcano Hell mode so she can be a farming monster for you. Yeah, she takes a long time to kill stuff, but she's definitely capable of doing some of the really good farming stuff so that you can get more 6-star monsters so that you can start getting some better runes once you 5-star and 6-star some wind monsters for dragons and Giants Keep, stuff like that. So, what else did I want to talk about here? Tomorrow's Mystic Scroll Fight Club, fire up for that. And I'm sure a lot of people will be watching this afterwards. Okay, so for a team for Dragons Keep, you can see I'm using Lumirecia, Amun, Acasis. Acasis isn't really a good monster to be using. She dies probably 80% of the time before I even get to dragons. This is kind of a rare case up here. She actually stayed alive up to dragons. And Megan's actually pretty good because she can put up damage over time effects as well with her first skill, and she gives you attack and defense increases, buffs. So she's a good choice. Plus she benefits from the resistance leader skill of Lumi. And then Water Gruta, he's definitely very powerful. His skills will remove all the damaging effects. So you want to have his peace skill. I would max out all of his skills. But his peace skill, cooldown turn -1/-1, reusable every 3 turns if you get these cooldown turns, and this removes all harmful effects on allies and recovers hit points. So this is very important. Now as far as runes go on him, I went with Swift, and I don't have very good runes on him. I would like this to be a speed rune to get him, actually Violent would be the best for him because you want him to be casting this as much as possible. The debuffs and damage over time is where you get into trouble. Now, the Water Death Knight, he can also be a very good character, and I'm thinking about building him for my Dragons B10 team, but I'm not sure if I need him. His skill, protect all allies from death for 1 turn, and removes all harmful effects, and gains immunity for 2 turns. So then immunity means you can't get debuffs or harmful effects put on your monsters. So immunity is very powerful here. Actually, in Dragon's Lair B10, Chloe is a really good monster for that immunity and invincibility. That's going to make your team more survivable. Actually, I think Vigor is a pretty good monster if you're looking to build a Dragon's B10 team. First, all water monsters you're kind of looking for because they're going to benefit from Lumi's resistance plus 50% skill. Or the Phoenix is a good leader too. Sigmoris, the 5-star water Phoenix, is a good leader. But I'm not going to get into that too much. There's too many options, too many choices. I'm just giving you guys some ideas here. What's really good about him. So the team that I laid out for Giants B10 is basically you have a monster for everything that you want to accomplish. So one monster is giving you attack and defense buffs. One monster is giving your team speed buffs. One monster also is decreasing the speed of other monsters. And you got a healer. And then you have a shield for survivability. Amun or Bella is giving you extra heals and extra speed if it's Bella. So those types of monsters all synergize nicely so that your team cannot really be killed. Now, if you're doing Dragons B10, it's total opposite because it's fire, so all your wind monsters are pretty much useless because they're just so weak against fire. Now, my Acasis is 6-star and pretty good runes, so that's why she's capable of just helping the team out by this force field here. So you can see this isn't an auto battle, but that force field helps quite a bit. So she's a possibility, but I do not recommend her. But you're looking for monsters who are capable of doing those same things, but you're looking for water-based monsters. So Vigor here recovers the hit points of allies and increases their attack speed for 2 turns. Now if I get this cooldown turn -1, which I'm going to get, it's going to be reusable every 3 turns. So if you put Swift or Violent runes on him, he's going to make sure your team's attacking much faster. If your team's attacking faster than the enemy's attacking, you're going to get more skills off, before the enemy gets to do the damage to take out your monsters. So I think he'd be a very good choice. He's also healing. It's always good to have those extra heals, especially if you got things running on auto. And he's actually not too bad. He has a chance to decrease the enemy's defense, and this isn't a very bad attack. So I'm probably going to be replacing Acasis with Vigor and seeing how things turn out for a better, more reliable auto team. Now Amin, if you don't have a 6-star Amin with really high hit points, he's going to get smoked in this level as well. He's going to get the defense break on him, and it's just, the towers are going to take him out if you're trying to do auto. So make sure if you're going to use Amin or Bella or Darien, those are not going to get the resistance from the water skill. So you need them to be super tanky if you plan on using them for Dragons B10. Water Garuda would probably be a good choice to do a 6-star. I know it's very possible to duo the Dragons B10. If you just have a few other monsters, then you take Lumi and Water Garuda with a 6-star and decent runes. That's going to solo Dragons B10 as well, if you have a team that can get far enough into it. So these are some choices. Probably what I would do if you have a Lumi, and if you don't, try to get yourself a 5-star Water Phoenix. You can fuse that monster, Sigmoris, and he's going to give all your water monsters, I think all the monsters, a huge amount of extra hit points, which is going to make them survivable enough to do Dragons B10. But if you do have a Lumi, what I would probably do if I were you is work on her as much as you can, give her the best runes you can, and also probably try to 6-star Konamiya here. The Water Garuda, get him max skills, get him some good tanky runes and some speed runes so that he's attacking more often, and then fill in the rest of your team. Possibly like Megan, Vigor. This guy, Phantom Thief, wouldn't be a bad choice. You could throw Despair runes with some extra speed and stuff on him, and he could, decrease the attack bars and defense of all allies, or of all enemies. So he could help you get through these trash mobs so that Konamiya and Lumi can finish soloing the rest of the dungeon. So there's a ton of different ways for you to go about tackling Dragons B10. And also, if you're lucky enough to get a Water Dragon Knight Chao, he's totally capable of soloing the Giants B9 as well. And I think he has a place in Dragon's Keep as well. So there's a lot of options here, So Water Death Knight, Lure, the Water Phantom Thief. You're basically looking for water monsters to benefit from the resistance. Now what I've been doing lately, which I don't have recorded, is I'm actually using my 5-star Juno, who's actually pretty helpful as far as heals go. And she's got Despair runes on her, so she helps stun some of the towers. She gets a few stuns off, and that makes my team more survivable because they're not taking as many hits from the towers during the trash mob phases. So I'm using her as a substitute for Acasis right now. They're both, not stellar. I thought Juno was going to be a lot better. The reason she ends up doing a little bit better than Acasis is because, I just have better runes on her. She's got some pretty high level defense and hit point percent runes, which makes her stay alive. Plus, she's not weak against fire. She's neutral against fire. Fire is neutral against fire. So I'm using her instead of Acasis just because it increases my success rate a little bit. It makes it a little bit easier for me to walk away from a battle and just leave it on auto attack. So I feel like I'm getting to the point where I'm rambling here. You guys have probably gotten sick of watching Giants and Dragons Keep and listening to me talk. Hopefully this was a little bit helpful for you. And there's a lot of exciting updates coming for Summoners War here. So fire up. Com2 US has been giving us lots of crystals, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you guys learned something from this, and I hope you guys can start doing some of this high level content so you can get those 6-star runes. It's the 6-star runes, and it's being able to use experience boosters and farm as much as you possibly can to get the 6-star monsters with good 6-star runes, and that's going to make you amazing in this game, and it's going to let you climb the ranks and beat the high level players. And RNG has a factor in everything, but you need to start building some of this stuff if you want to, be the best and be really good. Not necessarily be the best, but compete against the best. And that's when this game, gets really exciting. So hope you guys build a good Dragons B10 team, and I will talk to you guys later. LMC signing out for now.